I've been barking up the tree of oval inserts and anamorphics for ages now, and I'm pretty excited to show how Blazar implemented this combination of an oval-shaped iris and a lower squeeze anamorphic to create full-frame lenses that are light, cheap, and deliver an amazing visuals. We're talking about the Mantis lenses. The Mantis starts out great on paper, with all the bells and whistles we are growing used to. The lenses have similar sizes and weights, just under 800 grams or 2 pounds per lens, as well as matching gear placement for helping keep your rig streamlined. This is a full frame set made up of 5 lenses, focal lengths being 25, 35, 50, 75, and 100 millimeters, out of which the 25 and the 100 millimeters are T2.4 and the other 3 are T2. The main number you might pay attention to and try to dismiss this set altogether is 1.33 times for the squeeze factor. The cool part is this might be a 1.33 times set, but the look is legit 2 times. Hold up! In Cam Mackey's review of these lenses, he mentions they're not actually 1.33, but 1.38 times instead. I was looking at my de-squeezed footage on camera and feeling things looked a little narrow. I mean, I'm already slim and that was too slim. So I went for my own tests. I found that all of them are consistently 1.40 times squeeze. That is a 5% difference from the advertised value, and most people won't notice or won't care. But if you do, just make sure to set up your project accordingly. One of the biggest advantages of a lesser squeeze is close focus becomes much more achievable. We got 1 foot 3 inches or 38 centimeters on the 25mm, 1 foot 6 inches or 48 centimeters on the 35 and 50mm, and 2 foot 2 inches or 68 centimeters on the 75 and the 100 millimeters. All lenses feature scales both in metric and imperial, and the focus throw is 180 degrees. The front threads are 77 millimeters with an 80 mil outer diameter, and Blazar is offering them in almost all mounts, with the base being PL. I'd say stick to PL, but it's your pick. Here are a few comparison shots against the Kato lenses, also from Blazar. We're conforming these to 2.39 to 1 and focusing on the look. Sure, the Katos have a lot more image on the sides because of the 2 times squeeze, but when conforming to the same size and displaying similar vertical focal lengths, we won't see much difference in terms of angle of view. In fact, I like the results from the Mantis more than I like the Katos. The image looks more put together. They deliver a much flatter field, meaning that focus doesn't drop off as sharply across the frame for off-centered subjects, and Blazar has addressed the hardcore warping present in the Katos, especially the wider ones. 1.33 times or 1.4 times squeeze is also good for cameras that don't offer internal D-squeeze, Sony, and that don't give you an option for open gate recording, Sony. With a 16:9 sensor, you can easily conform the Mantis image to 2.39 to 1. With a 3:2 sensor like the S1 II that I'm using here, you can conform to 2:1 aspect ratio, which is a happy medium between CinemaScope and 16:9. The Mantis lenses are coming out now and will retail for $1,000 per lens or $800 during the pre-sale. The 35, 50, and 75 millimeter lens set sells for $2,800 and comes in a nice case that has slots for expansion with the 25 and 100 mil. Performance-wise, we see a good amount of astigmatism when wide open, especially when in close focus. Notice the blue fringing around the bright text, and see how when the blue is no longer fringing, we don't seem to have as sharp text. Stopping down to T2.8 pretty much solves it, so no big deal there. We also see some chromatic aberration as we move towards the edges and, as expected, not as sharp of a performance compared to the center. In distortion land, The 35mm shows a healthy amount of barrel distortion, while the other ones in the set are much more subtle. Also, unlike the Katos that display a lot of overcompression on the edges, the Mantis do not. The 25mm is actually pretty controlled, and you get more of like the linear type of distortion, as if they're fighting strong barrel distortion and overcompression. When we get to flares, Blazar is narrowing down their offerings to amber flares only with a splash of a purple streak. These are much harder to trigger, unlike the trend we've been seeing in anamorphics since 2019, with easy over-the-top flares. I like these. The only thing that bugs me is the green secondary. My general note for anyone making anamorphics these days is look at Lomo flares and look at the Panasonic LA7200 flares as references for how cool flares look and how to get rid of these damn green secondaries. I think most cinematographers will agree here. As you progress in your filmmaking, you get less wow from flares popping up all the time and care more about how and when they show up to tell the story. In the Sirui 20mm autofocus review, I compared that lens with the Viltrox 25mm Epic. Now let's compare the Viltrox to the Mantis 25mm. The Viltrox is chunky and definitely fits the bill of what you should expect for a traditional cinema lens. In terms of specs, they almost match perfectly. 25mm, full frame, 1.33 times squeeze. The main difference here is the Mantis is 2/3 of a stop slower than the Epic at T2.4 versus T2, and the actual squeeze is marginally different with 1.33 versus 1.4. In fact, the Mantis set matches the Epic set in all focal lengths, but at 1/4 of the price per lens. I like these lenses. They're both clean enough and dirty enough for the projects that I usually film. The full frame coverage means that I get to use my whole sensor, which I also enjoy for an expensive look, and their size and weight are appropriate for the many situations where I am filming by myself. I'm particularly proud of the mix of oval aperture and anamorphic glass as a budget-friendly technical solution to achieve a more expensive look. Unless Blazar has already patented that iris, I expect other makers to jump in on the fun. They must be using a creative approach to go around Vantage or Hawk's patent for the Mini Hawks, which are spherical lenses but feature an oval-like aperture, consisting of 2 overlapping irises, one regular sphere and a 2-bladed one that's cat eye shaped. So technically not the same as the Mantis iris. The only "I don't love this" comes from the 1.4 times squeeze factor in lenses marked as 1.33. And my frustration is more in principle than in practice. Knowing the squeeze is 1.4 times is great because that pretty much solves the problem for all intents and purposes. I just wonder what was the reasoning to decide to market these as 1.33 times. Because the folks who designed the lens for sure know this is not 1.33 times. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Out.